Welcome to In the Money, sponsored by Flyer Financial Technologies, the company that builds cutting-edge technology designed to solve asset and wealth management firms' toughest trading workflows. In this podcast, we help advisors and asset managers understand how technology is transforming the wealth tech sector. We'll cover how to leverage technology for faster, smarter investment decisions, megatrends, and more. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to In the Money. I'm your host, Rusty Sommer. I'm fortunate enough to be joined today with my friend Kate Healy from AdvoKate IQ. If you don't know Flyer FT, we power the fintech you love and use every day. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks so much for having me, Rusty.
How are you?
I'm good. Out here in Las Vegas. It's beautiful.
I know. Well, before we get into what we're going to talk about, let me just do a quick introduction so everybody remembers, this is Kate. So Kate Healy spent years in the wealth management space, helping firms grow through marketing and a focus on the future of the client and workforce. She has a strategic consultancy, AdvoKate IQ, that helps firms focus on growth initiatives for the future. So today, we had a little prep and we kind of talked about what we wanted to go through. But I think that where we are is to be talking about how you emphasize, your background in marketing, communication, and leadership roles within the financial services industry. So in a world that increasingly is dominated by algorithms and automation, what role does human connection play in the future of wealth management? What do you think?
It's the biggest connection, right? We're all always going to use the algorithms. We all need that, but it's that human piece to it that really gets into the emotions of why you're doing it. So much of finance, we think of it's cut and dried, it's numbers, it's returns. But if we're really doing our clients the best service, we're getting into their deep psyche of what is it that they want to do. Right? They don't want to beat the S&P 500.
Right.
That's not their goal in life. I mean, that's awesome when that happens. Their goal in life it could be to provide a legacy for their grandchildren. It could be to give back to populations or cats and dogs or whatever it is that they want to focus on.
Sure.
So much of that, though, comes across when you have these human conversations. The best part about technology is it's going to take all of that busy work, the old, back in the day when we'd be doing spreadsheets and making trades and do all that. That's what technology does. And it allows the advisor to actually talk to the client and get to the heart of what their issue is and what their family is. And as we'll talk about this, but as we look forward to the future of what future generations are like, families are so different. The people that are going to show up in your office, it could be 5 people instead of just one. And that may be a multi-generational family that has all of their finances intermingled. So really being able to understand that human element is going to be so important. You can't just get that through technology.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I think that on our side of the table, right, because we sit on typically one side and they sit on the other, there's an evolution in the workforce within the wealth management industry. Share some insights on how changing demographics and skill sets are impacting what we're doing and what's needed.
Yeah, I mean, if you're focused on growing your firm, right, you have to look out and see what are my clients of the future going to look like? And how do I create the service offering that is going to attract them and retain them? At the same time, you're trying to keep your business going. You've got to be hiring talent. You've got to hire all the time. So building up that pipeline of talent with people who probably are going to match more of the demographics of the future, right? Younger generations are much more affected by immigration and different types of nationalities than maybe what you're used to working on in the future. So you've got to understand, what are the cultural differences? What are the cultural values that they have? What does that look like in your service offering? How cool would it be to have an employee base that understands that in a way that helps you educate and get to the sweet spot faster than having trial and error of meeting with people and maybe, offending them or not understanding what their cultures do. So the more that you look to hire talent that matches where the demographics are going to go, you're going to have an easier job attracting those clients of the future.
It clearly is critically important that we attract and retain top talent
100%.
in a very competitive marketplace. And they have to be aligned or at least understand or be able to communicate and relate to the populations that they're serving, right? Because they all have unique experiences. And they, like, as you said, they could be cultural, they could be social, they could be financial, they could be lifestyle. It's really important.
Right. The values is so important from both an advisor perspective as the people that you're going to hire and from your clients. They're looking to see, what is your value as the firm? What do you believe in? It can't just be a plaque on the wall. They want to know, what is it that you stand for? Your talent wants to know that you stand for something. That's going to attract them to you. They're attracted to this business because they want to give back. This is a phenomenal career that allows you to help people.
Right.
There's not many careers that can say that. But what happens is sometimes is we say that and then we bring on people and say, well, you have to find clients with $1 million.
Right.
Well, if I'm 27 years old, I don't know many people with $1 million. But how many of my friends could have $1 million in 7 years if we started working with them with advice at age 25 and figured out a way to make money off of that because they're willing to pay for it. They're used to paying for things. So not worrying always about the assets under management, but thinking through what's a different service model that's going to attract this generation and keep them sticky as you're helping them grow their assets to more than they would be if they hadn't met you.
We've had to do that because in our business, we have to grow our businesses. There are people that we're accountable to, and we have bills that we have to pay for technology, for insurance, for, custody services, whatever it is, right? But I agree with you in that it's not always about that, because if I can put 100 people scalably in the top of my funnel, who in 5 years, 10 of them are going to have $1 million, and I can service them in an effective and useful way, then there's a lot of value there in having a program and having a way to service them that works for everybody.
Absolutely. And if you think of the AUM model, right, it was actually born out of service. We were trying to get away from just selling people products, right, and just having commission-based sales. We're saying, look, we're going to help you build this amount, what your nest egg is, right? We're going to get paid on that. We're on the same side as you. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good message. It's a great way to do it. But as we think about the future, clients of the future, alternative assets, different ways, many custodians right now can't hold all the assets in one place, right? So what are you going to charge on? There's something over here, something over here. You may not know about assets that are being held at an alternatives custodian. So you're not getting paid on that. If you can't think of another way to show that value, thinking through, and at the end of the day, the future generations, they want your help. They want an accountability partner. They will pay you for that.
Right.
They will graduate to an AUM model for sure. It will be better in everyone's best interest for them to do that. But to help them get there, charging them, whether it's a subscription fee or a financial planning fee or an advice fee, they're okay with that. And you just think about how that's helping them get to the part where they're going to be under an AUM model. So it's not a bad thing. And yes, the firm needs to make money. The good thing, though, is that when you think about developing the next generation talent, right, bringing in those, lower asset clients, they're less value to the firm, but they're a great opportunity for new advisors to start to work with. So you're building that flywheel of training, right? Okay. Advisors hate developing. They think everyone thinks like I got to where I am today by just being here.
Right.
But we didn't. We were all developed by someone. When you have a small business, it's really hard. You don't have an HR department with learning and development that's coming up with all of these things. But if you can start to put them in experiences where they're seeing new clients that have less, it's not as sophisticated what they need, they're learning much faster. You're creating a flywheel. And I always say, like, you teach one, they're going to teach all the rest of the next generations. Same thing with internship programs. So it's providing you, having alternate service offerings and alternate revenue streams is going to provide you a lot more flexibility in being able to bring in talent, develop talent, while allowing them to scale up to get your revenue higher.
Right. And I think that's necessarily true, particularly as we come up with new models and we come up with technology and mechanisms to help standardize some of the delivery aspects. Yeah. And you can really guide that conversation. You can guide that person to still be very effective with that client and provide them the service that meets them where they are today. Right. And to your point, when they are 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road and they've become financially incredibly successful,
right,
now you can graduate them to a more full service model with all of the other elements that they need that come along with your practice.
And they're going to come to you, right? Again, they're looking for you as an accountability partner. So they're going to say, hey, I just got stock options. I have no idea what to do with these. I just inherited money from my grandmother. What do I do with it? Do I put it all in the market at once? Do I buy a house? They're going to grow into the services that you offer. And that's what makes them even stickier, knowing that you're their partner throughout all of that.
Right. So, thematically, one of the things you've been hitting on, it's been people.
Yeah.
right? And people are they're the glue, they're the secret sauce, and it requires growth within the organization and the people in order to keep up with your clients and your business and to grow. So talk about kind of over your career, your commitment to growth initiatives and their impact on the wealth management industry.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that there is no way. When I think back to when I got into this industry, and I'm a failed financial planner. I started to become a financial planner. I had been laid off. I got this great severance package of $17,000. Thought I was rich. I was like 28 years old. And I hated the selling part. I was going through the phone book and all of that.
Yeah.
When you think about, so I walked away, right? And I look at so many people that I started in this business with that left. And we didn't make it easier for them to come back. Maybe they left because they had kids. Maybe they left because their family moved, whatever. We don't make it easy to come back. It's that people part that at the end of the day differentiates us from the algorithm. I can do so much of this online, but the behavioral piece, even that, while we can do nudges and all those things online, I want to look you in the eye,
right,
and know that you understand me and my family and my special circumstances in a way that's going to make me feel good about. You think about people and talking about their finances, right? There's a lot of shame involved sometimes.
Sure.
They want to know that you understand what they're talking about and that you're going to help them along the emotional journey that this may cause them to have. And that's the part that has to be done by person. You don't have to be in person. Once you get to know people, you can do it video, you can do phone calls, you can do all of those different things. But that human element is what's really going to make people have behavioral change, have an understanding, and then decide that you are the true partner, the accountability partner, the person that they want to bring this to all the time and look to you to help them on their journey.
How can or does technology promote that?
Technology just makes it easy, right? Like appointment setting, reminding people of what their goals are, little nudges to say, hey, here's what you promised to do before the next meeting, right? All of those things are so helpful. It can, go take a look at your tax returns. You can take a look at things where you're not thinking about finances we're in the business and they can be overwhelming. Imagine people who don't do this for a living at all and really don't know much besides I get a paycheck. Uncle Sam takes some money. Some goes into a 401k. I don't even know where that is. Right? All of these different things. There's so much technology can do to help us say, hey, we can help you find your accounts. We can consolidate those accounts. We can bring them here. We can put them in a screen. You can look at everything together. We can start to make decisions and make sure you're not overinvested in one asset class, or that you're going to take a look at your longevity and your family's longevity and make sure you've got, you're going to have enough to live on. Think about the legacies that you want to live. Technology is going to do all of that. But the conversation, the trust, I didn't even thinking about that. And now I can talk to you and ask the questions because I didn't know I had the questions.
I think that might have been one of the most interesting things you've said for me personally, because sometimes I feel that way. Sometimes I don't know that I even have that question.
Right.
And pulling that out or providing a safe place where somebody can help me.
Yeah.
Think about the trust that you engender when you're sitting across from that client and you help them get to that aha moment.
That's what it's all about, right? Getting them to that aha moment where they realize the value. I've done panels where I bring clients on stage to talk. And I'll never forget this. One woman she stood there and she said, look, a room full of advisors. She said, I should not be telling you this, but you don't charge enough for what you do. For the peace of mind that you have brought me, you don't charge enough.
Wow.
I mean, that's what you want, right? Like that fulfills your heart. It fulfills your intellectual curiosity, all of those things that make this a great career, right? But you did well by somebody. That's amazing.
Great. Wow. All right. So, I mean, a big part of what we do that probably a lot of people don't do well is communicate. And that can come in a lot of forms.
Yeah.
Could be marketing. It could be, standardized communication with clients. It could be very personalized things that we're communicating to our clients. I want to ask probably a dumb question. How relevant to the advisor-client interaction is that?
It's extremely relevant, right? Like that's how you have to, think about how much money someone is paying you.
Yeah.
If they hear from you twice a year at a meeting and that's it, like, that's not a personal relationship. Communication is huge. And as firms are maturing, they're realizing the need for marketing and communications, and they do newsletters and they do all of those things. And that's great. But really getting that personal communication in there, and that's where technology is helping, right? You start looking at scraping information from a CRM. Hey, so-and-so's kid is graduating this week. We should probably be sending them a celebratory gift and hey, have you thought about this with your finances, or all these kinds of things, and getting that out there. But getting in front of people and talking to them on a regular basis is what is keeping that relationship alive. But you have to know how your clients want to communicate with you. It's not easy, right? Like we always say in communications, right? Or advertising, you got to get the message out 7 times before someone hears it. Because think of how many times you open up your email or you open up your text and you're like, oh my God, I can't keep up. And now I got LinkedIn, and now I got this, and now I got Teams, and like so many messages coming. So you have to constantly reiterate the message. But do client surveys. How do your clients want to hear from you? They want to email once a week, right? I love when I get too many emails from a store I bought from and I hit unsubscribe and they say, hold on, before you go, do you just want to hear from us once a month? Yes, that's what I want. Don't email me every day you have a sale. I'll figure it out.
I think we've evolved, right? And technology has helped us do that in the sense that our expectations have leveled up. And we want communication to be personalized to us.
Yes.
And it's not anymore kind of one size fits all.
Nope.
How do firms go about establishing a framework and getting technology in place to provide that?
Yeah. They really have to take a look at their tech stack, right? And work with someone who's going to help them make sure that their CRM system is connected to their communication system, right? So there's a whole marketing automation. I think Michael Kitts has finally added it to his map, right? There are so many firms that automate the marketing, which is scrape CRM, pull out relevant data, come up with the, kind of messaging and things like that that are going to help you to personalize it. So it's going to say, hey, dear Kate, on this date, knowing the dates that are important to me, knowing all of these different things, you need to scale into that. And so when firms think about marketing, they think about ads or all of these different things. You can buy Facebook marketing, or I just came from a session where we talked about LinkedIn marketing, right? Yeah. You can install technology that's going to help you target the right market that you want. It's relatively cheap. That is the best thing about digital marketing. It's not like back in the old days where you had to have an ad in a newspaper or do all this artwork, right? Everything's digital. You can measure it almost immediately. Right. You can see what's working, what's not working. The one thing I would say to firms, what I always see is they do a social campaign for 3 months and they say, oh, this isn't working, and they get rid of it. 3 months is nothing. In 3 months, think of how many decisions you were supposed to make or things you were supposed to do. I'm not going to do them for the next 3 months. So you have to keep it consistent. It's not that expensive, but you will see the payoff in the long run of people saying, oh my God, I have seen this ad a couple of times. I really need to start to talk to someone about my finances right now. Now I'm going to do that. So 3 months is not a long enough time.
So I think we've been talking really about today, whether or not firms are doing much with it. That's a whole other topic, right? If you thought about the future, what's your vision for the client experience in wealth management?
It has to match every other experience, right? I'm sitting in a lovely hotel where, I walk in and at the check-in desk, they've got all my stuff ready for me. And I go into my room and the curtains open up automatically as soon as I open up the door. Maybe I don't want that, but it was a nice touch, right? It's thinking through, because that's the bar. It's not, oh, we're in finance and we had clunky websites. That's not the bar. We used to think the bar was Amazon. That's not the bar anymore, right? It's every great experience you have. It's Uber, it's Amazon, it's all of those together. What happens when you go on Venmo? All of those things. So it's having a personalized experience to the client that's convenient for them when they need it. It may be 2:00 in the morning. I can't stand it when I go to schedule something and someone doesn't have an automated schedule and they say, call our office. I'm not calling your office. I'm working during your working hours. I don't have time to call your office. And I can sync up our calendars very easily if I can just go into that. So it's just keeping it no friction, easy. Apple. Yeah. Think the phone.
Yeah. And technology is the driver to personalizing and enhancing that client journey.
Right.
And without it, we're kind of back to where we were, 1965, 1985, take your pick.
Right.
We certainly couldn't exist today. And I would say that the human interaction piece is incredibly important. And having a level of empathy in the digital world is sometimes hard. But kind of back to the things you were talking about, our clients need that on occasion.
They need it and they want it, right? So if you think about Gen Z, they actually want to be in your office. They want to be in the office working. They grew up in the pandemic. They grew up with everything digital. They're missing that human connection. So many of the clients, like this is their spot to tell their story. How many other times do they really get to tell their story to someone who's listening to them? They want that human connection. Sure, the digital and all of that's going to help. It's going to help them elevate their story, your story, but being in front of someone face to face, nothing beats that. You know, the feeling you get after you've been at a conference or a concert or something like that, where there's a human experience and it just lifts everybody up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of lifting people up, let's talk maybe about leadership and mentorship, because I think that's probably pretty core to who you are as a person. What's been your experience as a leader and mentor within the financial services industry?
It's been interesting. You know, I've been in this industry for a long time. And when I came in, it was 50-50 women and men. And as I went up the ladder, I turned around, I'm like, wait, where did all the women go?
Yeah.
And I remember being at a firm and my boss saying to me, he was male, and he said, you know, you need a mentor, but there's no one here that I could figure out for you, because there were no other women that would be that person that I could emulate. Right. So it became very important to me to say, like, is that why people aren't joining our industry? That's ridiculous. How do we fix that? So I'm a firm believer in not just mentorship and sponsorship, but also your own personal board of directors. The one thing I say to everyone is your career is your career and you're responsible for it. I will help you get wherever you want to go, but you've got to tell me what you want to do so I can move things out of the way and help you. But one of the ways to do that is have a personal board of directors. So 3 or 4 people that are in your industry, not in your industry, some are friends, some aren't, that you can go to and say, I need connections here. I'm moving here. I'm thinking about this decision. Then, you know, as more and more firms are starting to see formalized mentorship programs, and actually I think the stat is like 100% of Fortune 500 companies have mentorship programs because they see the value. And the value is not just to the person who is mentored, but the mentor, the mentee, the mentor also gets value from that because they're strengthening their supervisory and all of these kind of leadership skills. Yeah. But, you know, as we look around, it's so important for us to all look to develop. And that's why I think development is so important, right? Nobody was born a great leader. We all learned it by either having great leaders or having bad leaders that we, you know, decided to never be like. You know, I know that thousands of dollars have been invested in me throughout all the companies I've worked for to help me create my empathy skills, my relationship skills, and my leadership skills and analytical skills and all of those things. And that's what we have to think through as a profession too, right? We've got to continue to invest in people. So I tell, you know, there's so many advisors getting to that age where they're getting ready to sell their firms. Guess what you are right now? You're a great mentor. You're a great sponsor. Reach back out and start to tell people, bring them up and show them how you got where you are.
As a girl dad, I'm really sensitive to this. And I definitely see at kind of my level in the industry exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's largely old white guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not that there aren't qualified other people. I challenge our teams when we're trying to hire folks, and I only get 3 people that look exactly alike. I'm like, you're being lazy.
Absolutely.
You are not looking hard enough for the best people if this is all you came up with.
And don't look in the same places. LinkedIn's great, but there's other things. You want people in client service. Start to look at associations that support client service. They don't have to be from our industry. You can learn our industry.
Sure.
Pretend it's so, you know, deep. We can all learn this, but we find people with the skills, the people skills, the relationship skills, the empathy skills. We can teach them that.
Creating that next generation of wealth management leaders is so critical to our business.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we've put our heart and souls into what we do, and we want people to come in and kind of pick things up and take it from where we leave it. And we want them to be successful because our industry does add a lot of value to society.
I mean, it's why I love it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you feel good.
You make a difference.
You do. You make a difference in people's lives, and we learn tremendously every day. I will say the growth rates for women and folks of color and people entering this industry are higher. We just still have so many people who are older that they skew. I call it a denominator problem, right? We are getting better. It doesn't always look it when you get into a room, but there are increases. We just have to be very careful to make sure we're retaining these people, because that is an issue we do have in our industry as well, especially as they're starting out. Because if we just say to them, bring in your own business, how do you do that at age 25?
So I remember my first job at a broker dealer. I'm in my mid-20s, and I made it out of the training period, and I had to go to the corporate office, and we had to do some on-site training. And I remember getting in there, and we're in like an auditorium, more or less, and we're sitting down in all these rows. The guy comes up, he says, all right, look to your right, look to your left, look in front of you, and look behind you. If you're in here in 3 years, none of the people you just looked at are going to be here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what kind of job does anyone want where
Right.
the failure rate is so high? That's not a badge of honor. I think that we used to think that it was, oh, you're not tough enough.
Exactly.
Guess what? Your clients don't want you to be tough. Your clients want you to be empathetic. They want you to understand what they want you to do. They want you to be knowledgeable as hell. So make sure that you are learning your things, so that it's not a badge of honor to fail people out, right? That's not what it is. So what are we doing wrong? Why aren't we helping people? And we're seeing changes in many firms, right? There are teaming models. You're not responsible for business development when you walk in the door. You're learning the business. I always say, right? So the sales part I hated. I always said, if I just sit at a desk and people come into me, I could do financial planning all day long, right? Well, that exists now in many firms.
It does.
And I also think that the career paths, I tell everyone, this business has grown so big, you don't have to be an advisor. Join in as a client service person, as a trader, as an attorney, as a marketer. You may, as you go through it, say, I actually love the financial advice. And now I'm not intimidated by it because I'm in the business and I'm watching how people form those relationships. I can do that. So it's important to also talk about the whole ecosystem. Fintech. You want a cool job? Guess what? Finance is technology. If you're in fintech, if you're in studying computer science, this is a great industry to get into. There's so much technology that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. So for 2025, if you had to put a stake in the ground and say kind of the big thing that's going to happen, what would that be?
I think 2025 is going to be a year of so much change. There's not going to be one big thing. I think we're going to be seeing more consolidation. I think that the recruiting war, that war for talent is going to explode. Firms are going to have to pay more for people. And I think that technological advances, AI, we have just tipped the surface of what we can do with AI and how we can use it. What our challenge will be is how do we make sure that all the regulations and the laws and compliance keeps up with that so that we can do it. But I don't see one big change in 2025. I see constant. Every couple of weeks, there's going to be something new. So everyone's got to just stay on their toes. Really interesting.
Kate, it's been a pleasure sitting down with you. And thanks for joining today's episode of In the Money. I'm your host, Rusty Sommer. I'm fortunate enough to have been joined by my friend Kate Healy of AdvoKate IQ. If you don't know Flyer FT, we power the fintech you love and use every day. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. Great time.
Thank you for listening to In the Money, the show that delivers advisors, asset managers, broker-dealers, and other technology service providers the knowledge they need to navigate this industry. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Flyer Financial Technologies. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.